Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Good evening. My name is Anastasia Bennett. I am a software developer in New Orleans with a Bachelor of Arts in Film from the University of New Orleans. I have a background in acting, screenwriting, and self-directed language learning. I found ObSpark by chance about a year ago. I told an Uber passenger of mine that I was looking for a fresh start in a career more just as creative and impactful as the arts, but more stable. And he suggested programming and highly recommended Operation Spark. So here I am, and I've gone from being pleasantly surprised by the fun of programming to being completely blown away by the skill set that I've gained here. And I really look forward to growing as a full stack developer and really honing my skills with user experience and interfaces, as well as cloud and database management. And I'm going to pass it off to Keith. Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming. I'm Keith Frederick. I'm a full stack developer and artist from New Orleans. When I'm not coding, I'm typically making music or designing graphics, which is kind of how I got into programming in the first place. I've always been relatively creative. I chose to pursue my tech career through Operation Spark because I've had a couple friends go through the program that had nothing but positive things to say about it. So I decided to give it a try, and I enjoyed the process of learning the different technologies and frameworks immensely. In my career, I'm striving to become a full stack engineer, contributing to a team, as well as working on my own projects to hopefully build something impactful. I'll now pass it over to Riley to introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Riley Katz. Thanks for coming out to support us and see what we've been working on. About 8 years ago, I started at LSU in software engineering, and due to a bunch of different reasons, I ended up leaving the program, mostly because my learning style didn't really gel with the way they were teaching. And I switched to mass communication, where I worked until the pandemic. During that time, the market downsized quite a bit, and I needed something different, a little bit more stable. And that's when, in a certain passing conversation, somebody mentioned Operation Spark and how they take you from zero to becoming a full stack developer in a matter of months. And that's when I decided to jump in and go back to computer science. And here I am. I graduated, and I'm ready to take on the industry with all the skills I've learned here. I'm going to pass it off to Trey to introduce himself.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Trey Isaac. I am a former teacher, now full stack developer. I got into Operation Spark because a friend of mine had completed the program, and as I was talking to him about a career change, he mentioned that Operation Spark might be a great place for my current interests. So at this point in my career, I'm hoping that I can continue learning and I wish to be successful in this field. And with that, I will pass it on to Zach.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Zach Izdebski. I'm a full stack engineer with a background in solar. So around 10 years ago, I graduated LSU in cultural geography. And I didn't really know what to do with that degree. And quite frankly, it didn't really open a whole lot of doors for me. And so over the next several years, I'd worked at a few different jobs here and there, and then got into solar at Joule Energy here in New Orleans. And in discussing the direction of the company and different things that were needed, my boss talked about data science and a need for data handling in the field that we didn't really have. And that piqued my interest and started me on the path towards figuring out how I could pick up more tech skills. And so I have some friends that have graduated this program, and they had nothing but glowing praise for it. So I decided to enroll and make a pivot. And so several months later, here I am, excited to keep learning about this and see where it takes me. So we're here to talk about our application, Schrödinger's Pantry. As many of you probably are aware, Schrödinger's cat is a thought experiment that has to do with something that can be both true or not true simultaneously. And so we applied that concept to the kitchen, where you could or could not have what you need to make a meal in your pantry. And so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and show you the site. So on our landing page, we can sign in with Google here. Got a nice little animation. And in our sidebar here, we can navigate to find a recipe. And I'm going to search for leek. So we're going to take a look at broccoli and Stilton soup. So here we have our title, our image, our ingredients are listed for us, and our directions. And if we want to talk about this recipe, we have our chat app. Look, we've got Anastasia in here. So we can also drag the chat around as we're navigating through the recipe as needed. And with that, I will pass it on to Riley.
Thank you, Zach. If we go into the navigation bar on the left of the screen, we can go down to the feed, which is an RSS catcher that takes a bunch of different news articles from a bunch of different sites like Eater, New York Times Food, and Delish. So the reason we did this was because we wanted to make sure that as different news articles post at different times of year, like the Super Bowl or Easter, they post about the best meals, the best things you can serve, the best desserts, and basically you can compare all the different foods you can cook around that time of year to each other using these things. Now, if you find one of the stories that you really particularly like, you can add it to your profile to save for later by pressing this button. Now, what is a cooking companion app without a timer? You obviously need to make sure that when you're cooking, that you keep an eye on how long things have been cooking. So we added a timer right here. And you can type in whatever amount of time you want. However, I'm just going to use 10 seconds. That way, I'm not wasting a bunch of your time. And when it hits 0, it'll play a jingle to make sure that you know it's time to check on your food. So that way, you can be notified whenever your food is ready. So now if we go over to the recipe application, you might have seen when Zach was presenting that below the directions, there are a few buttons right here that do a different cool things. So as we can see, we can read the directions right here, but if you're like me, you're cooking really hands-on, you got a bunch of raw ingredients on your hands, you don't want to ruin your brand new expensive laptop, it might just be easier to elbow the trackpad, start.
Heat a large casserole until hot, add half of the rapeseed oil and enough of the beef to just cover the bottom of the casserole.
And that way you don't have to mess up your computer and you can just have a voice command, voice-driven recipe reader list out all of your different recipes so you don't have to worry about touching your computer. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Anastasia.
Yeah, so one of the first things you all may have noticed about this pantry are these warm tan tones. This is our light mode, and it's perfect for setting a neutral but appetizing environment. If you would like a more sultry environment, maybe for evening cooking, or if you'd simply like to rest your eyes while you use the app, you can click this button in the upper right corner to toggle to our dark mode. This theme choice is just one of the things that will be specific to you if you've signed in through Google. Once you sign in, you'll have access to your own profile through this pull-out menu. And here you can see you can add information that's personal to you, and you can really make your pantry your own. So for instance, you can update your profile picture, upload. You can also change your bio and put a little bit of information about yourself. And also update any dietary preferences or allergies that you may have. Also, you can add your own flavors to Schrödinger's Pantry by creating your own recipes right down here. When you click create a new recipe, you want to insert your name, and you guys are in for a treat because I'm going to give you my top secret great grandmother's potato salad recipe. So after you type your name, you want to go ahead and insert your ingredients separated by comma, and of course, your cooking directions. And as you can see, your recipe will populate on your profile. You can go to recipe and see the whole thing here, just as you would if you were searching for one in the Find a Recipe page. You can also leave a comment, just as you can on the same recipes that come from the Find a Recipe page. And as Riley was just showing you all, in the news feed, if there are any articles that you absolutely love or just want to come back to another time, you can click this button here to bookmark it, and it will save and populate on your profile so you can find it again later. And if you ever get tired of your bookmark or not feeling this recipe anymore, you can go ahead and get rid of it. So I'm going to pass it off to Keith now to tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Anastasia. So let's say you're like me and you're a visual learner. You really benefit from watching something like a tutorial instead of following verbal instructions. You can watch corresponding YouTube tutorials for any of our given recipes in our app. So when you sign in with Google in the beginning, you in turn sign into your YouTube account. And with that, as you can see here, once I press play, you'll see a variety of options that you have, whether it be make it full screen, share from your YouTube account, or add it to your watch later. As you can see here, it says add to my watch later because I'm signed in. Or you can view another rendition of the recipe if the one that you found did not gel with you. So from there, I'd like to pass it on to Trey to talk about some other things that we have for you guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I like to listen to music with pretty much anything, whether it's exercising, on the road, or even studying. And cooking is no exception. So I figured that it'd be nice if our user could listen to Spotify and connect their Spotify app so that they can play music through our application. So as you can see, our students and our users can play, they can pause it, they can go to the next song, and they can generally listen to whatever they like through Spotify and connect that to our app. Also, I like to get my food like farm to table. So sometimes as we're searching through these recipes, we don't necessarily have all of the ingredients, and we want to find a nice farmer's market where we can buy some of these ingredients. So by typing in our zip code, we're able to locate the nearest farmer's market to us. And like by pressing on this pen, we can see where it is, the time that it starts and ends. And with that, I would like to pass it on to Riley for our tech stack.
Thank you, Trey. So we worked with a bunch of new and exciting technologies. We built the application using React and TypeScript. We made it a little bit more mobile friendly by using Material UI. The search feature that brings back all of the recipes is based off of the MealDB, which is on Rapid API. Our database uses Postgres and SQLize as the ORM. Spotify obviously powers the Spotify bit of the application. Moment.js is used to style some of the components for time on the RSS feed, but it also powers the timer and makes sure it gets consistent ticks when it ticks down. The fetch RSS basically takes all of the raw data from different websites, whether they have RSS feeds or not, and converts it into XML so that it can be used for information, and it displays as stories in our RSS feed. Socket.io controls the chat feature. It allows us to send messages across the internet. Cloudinary allows us to upload photos to the cloud and make sure that they're accessible later. They're persistent. Passport and Google power the login. The USDA Farmers Market API populates the Google Geography and Maps APIs so that you can see where things are on Google Maps. The YouTube API controls all of the different videos that come back at the bottom of recipes, so you can view how to make recipes. We use Express.js and Node as middleware to call our front end and back end and make the server. We used AWS and PM2 to deploy. PM2 essentially makes it so that the application can run persistently without having us host it on our own computers. We used Nginx and Route 53 in order to link our custom URL that we purchased to the instance so that you can use it and view it as we present. And we use CSS3 to style, and we use Axios for all of our HTTP requests. And with that, I'll pass it back to John.